Over the past 15 years, the Marvel Cinematic Universe has generated nearly $30 billion across dozens of interlinked films, establishing a commercial footprint that dominates the global box office. Yet this sprawling universe of gods and super soldiers is rooted in a highly abrasive origin point. The entire architecture rests on the shoulders of a deeply flawed, highly arrogant billionaire. Tony Stark began his story as a man who actively profited off global conflict. To understand how the franchise maintains its grip on audiences, we have to look closely at the improbable transformation of its most abrasive protagonist. The blueprint for this character was drawn up during the height of the Cold War. In 1963, writer Stan Lee set out to create a hero that readers would naturally despise. Alongside co-creators Larry Lieber, Don Heck, and legendary artist Jack Kirby, they forged a protagonist deeply entrenched in the military-industrial complex. Early Tony Stark was a genius weapons manufacturer. He spent his days actively designing and selling the instruments of destruction that fueled proxy wars around the globe. He operated with intense arrogance, entirely detached from the very real casualties his inventions caused on the battlefield. Stark deliberately represented the establishment that typical counterculture heroes were fighting against. To turn him into someone readers would root for required a massive psychological overhaul. That overhaul triggers when Stark is suddenly ambushed and kidnapped during a weapons demonstration. Locked in a cave, his captors demand he do what he has always done: build a highly lethal missile for their own arsenal. Instead of complying, Stark subverts his life's work. In secret, he repurposes materials to engineer the first Iron Man armor for his escape. Inside that cave, the distance between the inventor and the impact of his inventions closes. Stark moves from manufacturing tools for others to taking personal responsibility for what his genius produces. The heavy, crude iron suit he walks out of that cave in serves as the physical manifestation of a man actively dismantling his own destructive ego. Decades later, Marvel Studios decided to finally launch their massive modern cinematic experiment on the back of this exact storyline. Translating that complex, messy comic arc to the screen required a very specific human element, which they found in actor Robert Downey Jr. Through his performances in films like Iron Man and the Avengers, he perfectly balanced Stark's inherent biting arrogance with a begrudgingly acquired sense of duty. The actor heavily leaned into that unique psychological tension, evolving an unlikable war profiteer into Hollywood's most popular cinematic figure. This cinematic translation proved a vital rule for the developing franchise. Audiences rarely connect with flawless powers. They connect with the friction of internal human growth. This trajectory of growth reaches its final stage during the struggle for the universe in Avengers Endgame. The man who once sold weapons to the highest bidder is completely erased, replaced by someone acutely aware of the fragility of the universe. He completes his transformation into a truly selfless hero, ultimately prioritizing the survival of trillions over his own life. This long, painful trajectory of redemption served as the emotional engine that pulled every other character in the franchise forward. While the armor is a marvel of engineering, the character's legacy rests on the demonstration that a self-serving ego can be redirected toward the collective good. Tony Stark is the definitive anchor of the Marvel lineup. His specific redemption arc functions as the literal, load-bearing foundation for the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe. The commercial success of this franchise was anchored by the human transformation of its first, most flawed protagonist. Subscribe to the channel for more deep dives into the history, psychology, and evolution of your favorite superheroes.